Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgi, and welcome to the spoiler talk for Deadpool. Now, I already did my regular review, so if you just want to know what I think about the film, or you haven't seen it yet, then click right there to go to my regular review of it. Go ahead, I'll give you plenty of time, because on this episode, we're talking about the spoilers, we're going into detail about certain parts that you might not want to hear about if you haven't seen the movie yet, so just go ahead and click on that, because I'm going to spoil this thing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Was I crazy, or was that a goddamn helicarrier that they were fighting on at the end? Yes, okay, I'll get to that in a minute, but this is, of course, the spoiler talk for Deadpool, and if you guys haven't seen any of my spoiler talks before, it's a little bit more casual than my reviews. With my reviews, I have it all set up so that I can lay out all my points, and I can go through an arc on it, leading up to my final score. But with the spoiler talks, it's just kind of chill. I just kind of talk about whatever comes to mind as I talk about it, because it's not really me reviewing it. I already did that. This is more just me getting out there any final thoughts that I have on, and some of these thoughts aren't even spoiler thoughts. They're more of just things that might have come to me since I recorded the review. In fact, I'm just going to get into one of those right now. I complained in the review that the secondary villain had nothing to her, no personality or purpose at all other than just being there to fight a side character and being someone that the main villain can talk to. But as I thought about it, I realized, yeah, that main villain didn't have anything going for him either. Like, I kind of gave him some bonus points because he was really cruel, and he was. The stuff he was doing to Deadpool when he had him in that facility and he was trying to give him his powers, like, that is some sick, twisted stuff. But as far as depth to his character goes, or motivation, or anything like that, yeah, that dude has nothing going for him. In fact, he might be one of the flattest villains I've seen in a comic book movie in a long time. Maybe even ever. Like, I have been trying to figure out ones who might be worse than him. But at the same time, it's weird. Deadpool was so charismatic in this film that I didn't really care. Like, there's a reason why I didn't complain about it in the review. Like, the only reason why I really complained about Gina Carano's character was because I've seen that same thing in so many of the other X-Men films. But in this one, Deadpool himself was so entertaining, I didn't really care that the villain had no depth to him. But after, after having a day or two to think about it, it's starting to come to me that it's like, yeah, he was pretty weak. He was pretty darn weak. I still stand by the rating that I gave, mainly because it's a BS rating that I just made up for that review, but I still stand by it. I still think it was a really freaking good movie. But yeah, that's just something that I have to bring up. Now, as far as things that actually spoil this film that we can talk about, it was weird. I almost didn't do a spoiler discussion for this movie because it was so straightforward, and I complained about that in my review, that this is a really, really simple movie. It's like, what's the spoiler? He beats the guy? That's it? Really? And, I mean, granted, he kills him, which some people might not thought was going to happen, especially because Colossus came up and started giving him that speech. And that was a great moment. It really was. But am I the only person who, the moment Colossus started giving that speech, thought, Deadpool's gonna kill him halfway through the speech? He's totally, like, the setup for that joke was way too good. Like, if they didn't do that, I would have called BS. However, one of the spoiler things worth mentioning is all the Easter eggs in here, and I will go ahead and admit to you guys, the people who saw this film before me, they kept telling me this thing is loaded with Easter eggs. There are Easter eggs all over the place. And I didn't really see that many. I saw a few little tiny Easter eggs, but I didn't really catch many of them. Like, I caught Rob Liefeld, the guy who first drew Deadpool, in the bar. That was kind of a neat little cameo. Stan Lee's cameo, of course. This is gonna be one of his most memorable cameos. But those two cameos didn't really surprise me. The cameo that surprised me the most was the one that wasn't even there, because this thing starts out with Deadpool saying that he, fondled Hugh Jackman, and then we see the Hugh Jackman Sexiest Man of the Year cover, which I thought it was amazing that this thing started with the Ryan Reynolds Sexiest Man of the Year cover, and then it moved into him. I was like, I don't know what kind of a statement you're trying to make by going from one to the next, or if you're just trying to start some if you're just trying to come in here and start up a rivalry between you two guys. But I still really enjoyed it. And then at the end, when he takes the mask off and he's got the Hugh Jackman cutout mask, I was like, man, you guys are really just jabbing at Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. I I'm amazed he didn't have a cameo in this. You know he would have done it. He totally seems like the kind of guy who would be down for that. But yeah, I'm kind of shocked that they didn't do that. By the way, the last little thing when they had Hugh Jackman's face on the paper cutout when he took the mask off, I thought that was great. But it kind of brings me into, I don't know how I feel about this. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below how you feel about it. But Deadpool in the comics, he's had relationships. He's had people who have meant a lot to him. He's had lady companions who he has been very close with. But he's never really been a romance story. He's never really had that like dedicated love interest. He's never had his Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy or Lois Lane. He's always just had women who he loved, and then things just didn't work out. So I kind of feel odd about the fact that those two actually hooked up at the end of this. That when she saw his face, she was still like, yeah, I'm still gonna be with you. I still love you for who you are. Don't get me wrong, that's a great message, and after all the stuff that we saw Deadpool go through, it's kind of like, yeah, alright, good for you, Wade, you earned that. But this whole film was kind of meant to satirize and be a slap in the face of all the superhero films that we've gotten so far. And then at the end, we have just, you know, the big climactic battle, which we kind of get in all these films. Which I don't really have a problem with. I know a lot of people who complain, oh, why do all these things have to end with a big climactic battle? Because it's a hero and a villain. You don't want it to end with them going against each other. So I don't have a problem so much with that. But then, of course, it also goes into the girlfriend is kidnapped. He has to rescue the girlfriend. Oh, she loves him for who he is, even after learning about what happened to him. It's like, that just seemed really cliche for a film that was trying to stand out as, oh, we're not going to be like those other superhero films. Kind of still ended, just like all those other superhero films. But at the same time, if she had looked at him and went, oh god, no, I can't be with you, I don't know how I would have felt about that ending. Like, if Deadpool delivered a really great joke at the end of it, I probably would have been okay with it. So it's one of those things where I really don't know how I feel about it. So yeah, it's one of those where I just want to hear from you guys. How do you feel about that? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, moving into Deadpool himself and how he was portrayed. I mentioned most of the stuff I want to say in the actual review, because I think that they nailed his character. I really do. For the longest time, I kept thinking no one is going to be able to portray Deadpool better than Nolan North in the video games and in the cartoons, because that dude nailed Deadpool. And then I saw this and I was like, yeah, you also kind of nailed Deadpool, and you weren't just doing the exact same character. You were both kind of doing your own version of him, and you were both correct. So yeah, I think that Ryan Reynolds absolutely did nail his character, and the writers totally nailed his sense of humor. I mentioned that again in the review, but I went into this thing so nervous that they would not get this character correct, that they would not get his sense of humor, and that was put to rest immediately. Because as soon as this film begins, the way that the credits come up, and it is just saying things like, directed by some asshat, produced by some starring a CGI character, a moody teenager, some British villain. It was like, you are perfect. And I kept thinking, okay, that's just the joke credits. We're gonna get the real opening credits any moment now. No, those were the real opening credits. That is what I have to applaud this for the most, is that none of the actors, none of the writers, none of the producers and directors came in and went, no, but you actually have to show all our names up there. They knew what they were working on, and they knew it would be a betrayal of this film if they did not go with that opening credit. That was amazing of them, and as soon as I saw that, I knew, they got it. They got it, guys. Nothing to worry about. This is indeed going to be a Deadpool movie. And speaking of his sense of humor, I absolutely love that they were able to use his sense of humor not just for comedy, but also for the emotional moments. This is one of the only films I have ever seen where they can put in really goofy, zany humor in an emotional, dramatic moment, and it doesn't take away from the moment, it actually kind of adds to it. There's that great moment where he is suffering from cancer and he is trying to decide what he's going to do, and his girlfriend is there and she is just rolling around in bed and she's wondering why he's awake, and he just goes, oh no, nothing, I was just thinking about Liam Neeson and those Taken films. You know, it seems like after the third film you start to question his parenting skills. I was like, that is a really good joke. I really like that joke. But that was a very dramatic scene, and you didn't look at that joke as breaking up the drama. You looked at it as, this is the way they connect, and this is the way that he deals with dramatic stuff. This is the way that he deals with this trauma that he is going through right now, and it's the way that he kind of tries to get closer to the woman he loves, is through this sense of humor. It actually added to the drama, and I'm shocked they did that. And if you're talking about Deadpool's sense of humor, you have to bring up the way he breaks the fourth wall, and I thought they handled that incredibly well in this film. And what I love the most about it is that he never really broke the fourth wall before he became Deadpool. And then when he's Deadpool, he's doing it all the time, but when you see him finally starting his revenge spree, and you see him starting to build the costume, and they've got his theme song playing in the background, it slowly starts to happen throughout that. And like the first time that he really like does a hard fourth wall break is when he's got the map up there of all the people he's gonna track down, and then he starts to do it more and more as he's going out for revenge, and you kind of realize, oh, you're using this to show his descent into madness. This fourth wall break of his is him losing his mind as he goes out on revenge. That's why it builds as he becomes Deadpool. As he goes out there searching for revenge, he starts doing more and more because he's just descending into madness. It took Deadpool's greatest claim to fame and the greatest thing about his comedy and merged it with the fact that he is a severely messed up person and merged them together so damn well to show his character progression. I honestly thought that was brilliant. I really did. I don't want to like overhype this, but I am stunned by the way that they did that. So okay, that's all I want to say about Deadpool. Once again, real quickly, I'll just talk about Colossus. They nailed that guy. I love that they didn't just go, oh, he's the guy who turns into metal. They came in and went, this is his personality. It's not that he's just the guy who turns into metal. And it's not that he's just Russian, which thank God they finally made him Russian again, but he's also the big brother of the X-Men. He is the super big brother of the X-Men, and the way that he has Negasonic teenage Warhead there with him, and he is just trying to be the mentor to her. The moment in which he goes, did you eat breakfast? Breakfast is most important meal of the day. Here, have protein bar. It is good for bones. That was Colossus to a mother effing T. They nailed that. And I was a little bit worried about Negasonic Teenage Warhead in the trailers, because in the trailers, she looked like one of those cliche teenage girls who either is just completely silent the whole time, or they just speak up to say something mean, and they just look like they don't want to be there the whole time. I was like, that is such a cliche. We've seen it so many freaking times, and I was so worried about that. And then Deadpool comes in and says those exact words I just said to a T. Like, he fully addressed the concerns I had with that character flat out at the beginning of this damn movie. I went, oh my god, this film is so smart. It knows exactly what it's doing. Damn, that was smart of them. Because after that, after they just cleared the air with that, I was like, okay, I can deal with her now, because this film knows what she is. And they have already addressed that. But the last thing I want to say is that I love that this film was basically just an hour-and-a-half long slap in the face to Fox. Because, don't get me wrong, on average, I really like the X-Men films. There's a couple I absolutely love. Most of them I'm like, yeah, this is okay. And then there's a few that are really bad. But on average, they all even out to, yeah, this is pretty darn good. You're doing a pretty good job. But even the ones that I love, you can still look at and see when the studio came in and was like, no, tone this down. No, don't ever use the word superhero. Don't use colorful costumes. Don't do any of that stuff. Like, it still feels like Fox is the one studio out there that's kind of ashamed of the fact that they're making superhero films. Like, they're still the one studio out there that's like, mainstream audiences aren't going to like this. No, nobody's going to enjoy this. And after how badly they screwed up this character before, I love that this film almost felt like they just completely split off from Fox. Like, they just completely split off from them. Was like, listen, you clearly don't understand this character. We just have to make a movie so that way you can hold on to the rights for him. That's all we have to do. And clearly you don't care what we put out because we saw Fantastic Four. Just let us make this film. And I love that Fox was like, all right, fine, do it. And they took advantage of that to just piss all over Fox, because that's what this entire movie is. Not only are there tons of jokes aimed at Wolverine origins, like when we see the action figure and he says, "That's my lowest moment," or when Ajax says, "I should sew your mouth shut," and then he goes, "Oh, I don't think people would like that." It's like, we know exactly what you meant by that. We know what you were referencing, but there were just jokes at the other X-Men films in general, and like the way that this studio does business. Like, I mentioned how many times they have Hugh Jackman mentioned in here. Like I said, I don't know if he's just trying to start beef with him, but I think on some level, he was trying to make a joke about how often they use Wolverine and how Wolverine is always their go-to character in all these movies, and he's just in all of them. I feel like that was their way of kind of going, you've used him too much, alright? He's not the big star of the entire X-Men universe. There are other characters you can use. Or, and this was a weird one that I love that they did, but when he says, "We're taking you to see the professor," and he goes, "Stewart or McAvoy, I can never keep up with these timelines." My entire audience burst out laughing at that. And I love that because I didn't see this at Comic-Con. I didn't see this in front of a geek-specific audience. I saw this with a mainstream movie audience, and they all knew exactly what he was talking about. That means that mainstream audiences now, they're invested. They know these characters, they follow these film franchises, they know this world that you've set up, and they know the stuff going on behind the scenes. I love that. To me, that entire audience bursting out laughing at that moment was kind of them saying, this isn't just something we go and watch. This is something we actually know about now. Something we're actually invested in. In a weird way, that laughter was kind of a symbol of the comic book films are now that much mainstream. They are now so mainstream that audiences get the really specific stuff. And I love that. I love seeing that. But it's not just the references he makes or the jokes he makes specifically at Fox, but just the entire tone of this film. Like I said, the way that they get Colossus in here. The way that they get the X-Men. Like, when Negasonic's costume just kind of melts away and it's revealed that she has an actual X-Men costume on underneath it, that was a beautiful moment to me. Because that was this film coming in going, no, X-Men, teachers, students out there with costumes, with the yellow costume that all students have. Colossus has a different colored costume with an X on the chest. They were just coming in here and saying, no, people want this. People want the X-Men to be freaking superheroes, alright? Not some elite task force all wearing black that just goes out there from their secret base to fight other mutants. No, they want them to actually be superheroes. And just how funny it was, how colorful it was, how energetic and upbeat it was. All the things that you don't find in the Fox X-Men movies. The fact that it embraced all that so much, to me, was just this film coming in and going, listen, guys, get with the freaking times. People want their superheroes to be just that. Actual superheroes. You can adapt these comic books. You can embrace the things that made these comic books work. And this one, I feel, is probably a stretch. I know it's probably a stretch. But in a weird way, I feel like this was Ryan Reynolds also coming in and saying, guys, Fox, Disney, stop fighting. We want these universes together. We want these universes to coexist. I feel like this had to have been a very subtle message that they put into the film, because that last fight, that was on a SHIELD helicarrier. You can't tell me otherwise. And it's not just me, because I thought that in my head. When I saw that, I thought, that looks like a SHIELD helicarrier. And then someone behind me whispered to the person next to them, is that a SHIELD helicarrier? I was like, oh god, it's okay, so maybe it's just us. Maybe it's just us. I got to work next day and I was telling people, yeah, I saw Deadpool. First thing that someone said to me was, that was a SHIELD helicarrier, wasn't it? At the end of the movie? Yeah, it was totally a SHIELD helicarrier, right? I kept asking other people about this. Everybody was like, oh, it totally was. I guarantee you, there was some kind of a line that got cut out of here, making a commentary about that. Even if it was just a joke in which they said, hey, where'd you find this? Oh, it was just floating, crashed in the river somewhere. You know, like where it was left at the end of Avengers. Audiences want a merged Marvel universe. They know these characters exist in the same universe. They know it, and they're tired of the Inhuman ripoffs on S.H.I.E.L.D. They're tired of the X-Men just being over there in their own corner. They want these people together. They want the X-Men and the Avengers together. They want the Marvel Cinematic Universe to be whole. And I feel like this had to have been Ryan Reynolds coming in going, I'm planting that first seed. If the studios aren't gonna talk, I'm gonna put something in this movie that gets people talking, that gets people actually having this conversation. Maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but I really hope that is what he was doing, because as I said, at my store the next day, that's all people were talking about. So okay everybody, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching this episode. If you want to see more from me, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video, make sure that you share it and hit that thumb up button. Let me know in the comments down below how you felt about Deadpool. Full spoilers are on for this. You can say anything you want down there. And if you want to see some more Deadpool stuff from me, I'll have 2 videos at the end of this. Make sure you click on them and spread them around as well. Thank you very much for watching, and come back next time.